My name is Mara Quinn. I'm 38. When I was 16, my mother dropped my life on Aunt Ruth's porch in one cardboard box. She set my clothes beside the door. She did not knock. She left a note on top, with the word good pressed so hard it cut the paper. Keep her away from my good children. I carried the box inside myself. I never asked to go back. But here's what my mother didn't know. Aunt Ruth kept that note inside the lid of the same box for 22 years. That is why I can tell this story calmly now. If someone in your own family ever made you feel like your blood was the problem, stay with me, like this video and subscribe if you believe no one should have to beg to be treated like family. And if you are listening while you wash dishes, drive home, or fold towels in a quiet room, just know this. I am not telling it to make myself sound brave. I am telling it because some doors only make sense when you know who left you outside them. For years, my mother told people she had done her best with a difficult daughter. For years, I let that sentence walk around without chasing it. Then she needed me to stand beside her in a photograph. Not for a private talk, not for a real apology, for a clean picture, a soft caption, and a room full of people who still believed she had been the wounded one. That mattered more to her than my answer. Let me take you back to the house where my mother learned to divide children into clean and cursed. The house sat at the end of Maple Bend, where every lawn looked ready for church inspection. My mother, Evelyn Quinn, loved that street. She loved the white mailbox. She loved the family photos that made us look warmer than we were. On Sunday mornings, she lined us up before service. My two younger half-siblings stood in front. Their collars were straight. Their hair was brushed until it shone. I stood near the hall table with the diaper bag or the casserole dish. If a neighbor waved, my mother waved back with the hand that was not touching me. She built the rule quietly. In our house, love had assigned seats, and mine was always the folding chair. The first time I remember the phrase, I was 9. I had spilled grape juice on the dining room rug. It was not a crime. It was a glass. My mother took the towel from my hand and said, "Your blood is a warning." She said it low, as if the rug had ears. Then she sent me to the laundry room, while the others finished dessert. After that, the sentence kept showing up. It came out when I almost forgot my place. If I laughed too loudly with my brother, she called me into the kitchen and said it again. If my little sister climbed into my lap, my mother lifted her away and smoothed her dress. Your blood is a warning. Same words, same flat voice. No yelling. Yelling would have sounded less prepared. She kept other rules too. My school picture went into a drawer, while the younger kids' photos climbed the hallway wall. When relatives came for dinner, I set plates, filled water glasses, and disappeared before the camera came out. When school forms came home, my mother signed my siblings' papers the same night and left mine under a stack of coupons until I learned to remind her twice. She never said I was not her daughter. She just arranged every room until nobody had to ask. Aunt Ruth refused to follow that arrangement. She was my father's older sister, and she had the kind of calm that made other people stop performing. She lived 12 minutes away in a brick duplex. She did not make speeches about healing. She put a key under the clay pot beside her steps. She kept clean towels in the bottom drawer. She asked if I had eaten before she asked why I was there. When I was 13, my mother sent me to Aunt Ruth's with a bag of canned peaches and a warning to behave. Aunt Ruth opened the door, saw my coat sleeves were too short, and said, "Come in before the wind gets ideas." Dry as a cracker, kind as bread. She saw more than I wanted her to see. Once, after a family cookout, she found me rinsing trays in the garage sink because my mother had told me the kitchen was too crowded. Aunt Ruth took the tray from my hands. She did not call Evelyn cruel. She only said, "A child should not have to earn a chair at her own table." Then she dried the tray herself. I carried that sentence for years. It was not soft. It was solid. By the time I was 16, Evelyn had built a cleaner story. She had her new husband, her two younger children, and a house where every visitor saw framed smiles. I was the part she could not edit out, so she started moving me farther from the page. First, she stopped signing school forms on time. Then she forgot to pick me up from debate practice. Then she told people I was staying with Ruth more these days. Like it had been a gentle family choice. It was not gentle. One Thursday in March, I came home from school and found my clothes folded in a cardboard box. Not all of them. Just enough to send a message. 2 pairs of jeans. 4 shirts. My winter coat, even though spring had not arrived yet. My mother was standing by the front door with her car keys in her hand. "Get in," she said. I asked where we were going. She looked past me toward the hallway, where my little brother's backpack hung on a hook with his name stitched across it. "Aunt Ruth's," she said. For a while. For a while is a phrase adults use when they do not want a child to hear forever. The drive took 12 minutes. She did not turn on the radio. I held the box in my lap because she had put it there before I could buckle the seatbelt. When we reached Aunt Ruth's duplex, my mother parked at the curb. She took the box from me, set it on the porch, and placed a folded note on top. I waited for her to knock. She did not. I waited for her to look at me. She looked at the blue door instead. Then she said, "Your blood is a warning," and walked back to the car. I did not chase her. I remember that clearly. I remember my shoes on the porch boards. I remember the box sitting between my feet. I remember thinking the door looked very blue. Shock does not always come as a scream. Sometimes it comes as a color. Aunt Ruth opened the door before my mother's car reached the corner. She saw me first. Then she saw the box. Then she saw the note. She picked up the note and read it once. Her mouth changed, but she did not let the rest of her face follow. She stepped aside. "Come in, Mara," she said. I carried the box inside myself. For 2 days, I refused to look at the note. Aunt Ruth did not force me. She made eggs. She called my school. She moved a stack of quilting fabric out of the small back bedroom. She set a toothbrush in a cup by the sink. Every small thing told me I was not visiting. On the 3rd night, I found her at the kitchen table with the box open beside her. The note lay flat under her palm. "Do you want me to throw it away?" she asked. I wanted to say yes, but Aunt Ruth kept her palm on it, not heavy, just steady. I asked what good it could ever do. She looked at me over her glasses. "One day, somebody may try to tell this story for you." She folded the note, slid it into the inside lid of the box, and pressed tape over the seam. I watched her write the date on the cardboard in blue pen, March 14, my 16th year. From then on, my mother was missing one fact. Not a weapon, not then. Just proof that could sit still. I stayed with Aunt Ruth until I graduated. Evelyn did not come to my ceremony. She sent a card with no return address and $20 inside. I used the money for gas. Aunt Ruth sat in the bleachers and clapped so hard the woman beside her moved her purse. When I walked toward her afterward, she handed me a bottle of water and said, "You did not trip, that is a start." I laughed for the first time that day. Years moved in big pieces after that. I rented a room over a hair salon. I worked the front desk at a dental office, then learned billing, then moved into patient records because I was good at quiet details. I knew how to notice what people tried to tuck away. At work, a missing date mattered. A wrong name mattered. A form signed in the wrong place could change who paid, who was believed, and who got blamed. The habit did not feel special. It felt like survival with a paycheck. Evelyn became a Christmas card, then a forwarded birthday message, then a story other people repeated. I heard pieces of it from cousins at grocery stores and from women who still called my mother, "Poor Evelyn." According to the version she gave them, I had been troubled. I had chosen distance. She had tried everything. I did not correct every stranger. A woman can spend her whole life chasing lies with a broom. The floor still gets dirty. Aunt Ruth corrected people in her own way. If someone said Evelyn had lost me, Ruth said, "Mara was not lost, she was delivered to my porch." Then she changed the subject and asked if they wanted coffee. Her mercy had teeth. When I was 36, Aunt Ruth got sick enough to stop pretending she was only tired. She told me at the kitchen table, because important things in her house always seemed to find that table. The porch box was on the chair beside her. The tape on the lid had gone yellow. The blue date had faded, but it was still there. "I kept it because you were too young to keep it for yourself," she said. I touched the cardboard. I did not open it. "You may never need it," she said. "That would be best." A year later, I met Daniel. He was steady in a way that did not ask me to explain every flinch. We were not dramatic. We bought groceries, argued about thermostat settings, and learned each other's coffee orders. When he proposed, it was in our kitchen, with one sock missing from the laundry basket. I said yes before he finished the sentence. We planned a small backyard engagement party at our house. Folding tables, lemonade. Aunt Ruth in the good chair. People who knew the truth, or at least knew not to improve it. 2 weeks before the party, my phone lit up with a message from Evelyn. I stared at her name for a long time. It had been years since she had asked for anything directly. The message was short. I hear you're engaged. We should talk as family. No apology. No question. No. Are you happy? Just a door she assumed she could reopen because she had found the handle. I did not answer that night. The next morning, Aunt Ruth called before breakfast. Her voice sounded thin, but her words were sharp. Your mother has been telling people she never stopped trying with you, she said. I sat down on the edge of my bed. She is saying the engagement is a chance for healing, Aunt Ruth added. I thought you should know before she arrives wearing white. For the first time, I understood Evelyn was not coming back for me. She was coming back for the picture. That afternoon, I went to Aunt Ruth's house. She was waiting on the porch with the box beside her chair. For a moment, neither of us touched it. The old tape made a dry sound when she lifted the lid. Inside were the jeans, the shirts, the coat, and the note still tucked where she had sealed it. The paper had aged, but the sentence had not softened. Keep her away from my good children. I did not cry. Not because it no longer hurt. Because some pain gets old enough to stop asking permission. Aunt Ruth closed the lid and pushed the box toward me. Take it home, she said. I did. That evening, Evelyn sent another message. This one had a smiley face at the end. She said she would love to come to the party, meet Daniel properly, and say a few words if I felt comfortable. I looked at the porch box on my bedroom floor. For the first time in 22 years, it did not look like the place I had been left. It looked like the thing she had forgotten. I did not sleep much that night. The porch box sat at the foot of my bed like a quiet animal. I could have shoved it into the closet. I could have pretended Aunt Ruth had given me a painful keepsake and nothing more. But by morning, Evelyn had sent 3 more messages. One asked what color I wanted her to wear. One said she hoped Daniel understood how complicated mothers and daughters can be. The last one included a little heart. That heart did more damage than a curse word. I carried the box to the kitchen table. Daniel was already at work. The house was still. I opened the lid with both hands and laid everything out the way Aunt Ruth had kept it. 2 pairs of jeans, 4 shirts, the coat with 1 missing button, the note, keep her away from my good children. For a minute I only looked at it. Then I did what I had learned to do in patient records. I stopped trusting my feelings and started trusting the order of things. I took a photo of the note. I took a photo of the date Aunt Ruth had written on the cardboard. I took a photo of the tape on the inside lid, yellow and flat, where it had held the paper for 22 years. I did not touch the note more than I had to. Then I called Aunt Ruth. She answered on the 4th ring. Her voice had the scratchy sound it got after chemo days, but she was fully herself. You opened it, she said. I did. Good. I asked her to tell me the date again. Not because I doubted her. Because I needed the words outside my own head. March 14th, she said. You were 16. She left you on my porch at a little after 4. I remember because I had a pot roast in the oven, and I almost burned it. Pot roast. 4 o'clock. A blue door. Some truths need ordinary objects around them so they do not float away. I wrote it down. Then I asked the question I had been avoiding. Why now? Aunt Ruth went quiet long enough that I heard her chair creak. Look up the Quinn Kinship Fund, she said. I knew the name. Everyone in our family did. Aunt Ruth had started it years after I moved out, after a neighbor asked her how she had managed to take in a teenager with no warning. She had not built it like a grand charity. She had built it like a pantry shelf. Practical. Quiet. Gift cards. Emergency beds. A little rent help. A school supply check when a relative took in a child no one else would keep. When Aunt Ruth got sick, the fund needed someone who could attend donor lunches, smile at church committees, and stand in front of a banner without looking tired. Evelyn stepped into that space before anyone outside our family knew what she had done. Clean public faces are useful. Hers had been polished for years. I opened my laptop. The website loaded slowly. At the top was a photo of Evelyn in a navy dress, smiling beside a banner that said Family Steps In. Under her name were the words Chairwoman and Family Reconciliation Liaison. I read them twice. Then I saw the part that made the room smaller. Evelyn received an $18,000 yearly stipend. She had a travel card. She approved public family stories for the donor newsletter. Her latest campaign was about healing between mothers and daughters. My mother had built a platform on the kind of child she had thrown away. I did not slam the laptop. I did not call her. I just sat there with the note on one side of me and her smiling picture on the other. For once, the two versions of Evelyn were in the same room. Aunt Ruth stayed on the phone. She wanted to use you, she said. I know. No, Ruth said. Listen to me. She needs you. Needing me meant pressure. Needing me meant paperwork. Needing me meant the party was not just a party. I found the answer in my email an hour later. Evelyn had forwarded a short statement for me to review. She wrote that it was just a few lines for the fund's renewal packet, and nothing formal. People who say nothing formal usually want your signature before you understand the form. The statement was written in a soft voice I had never heard from her mouth. It said my mother had remained present through my difficult years. It said our family had chosen healing. It said I was grateful for her patience. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because my body had no better tool ready. At the bottom was a blank line for my name. I printed the statement. I placed it beside the note. The lie and the truth were almost the same size. My anger stopped being hot. It became useful. I made a folder, not a dramatic one, just a plain manila folder from the drawer where we kept stamps. I slid in the photos, the printout, Evelyn's messages, and a copy of the fund page showing her title and stipend. I wrote dates on a yellow legal pad. I wrote only things I could prove. No adjectives, no guesses, no she never loved me. That might have been true, but it did not belong in the folder. A tantrum would have helped Evelyn. A record would not. Daniel came home while I was still at the table. He saw the box before he saw my face. He did not touch it. One of the reasons I loved him was right there in his hands, doing nothing. Tell me what you need, he said. Witnesses, I said. Not a crowd, the right people. He sat down across from me. I told him Evelyn wanted to come to the party. I told him about the statement. I told him about the fund. I told him about the note. I did not tell it beautifully. I told it in pieces. Daniel listened as if each piece had a place. When I finished, he looked at the statement. She wrote herself as the victim, he said. She always does. Then let her read it where people can hear her. It sounded cruel for half a second. Then it sounded accurate. Evelyn did not fear private truth. Private truth could be denied, softened, blamed on my tone. She feared a clean room where her words had nowhere to hide. The next morning, I called Aunt Ruth again. I asked if she could be at the party early. I asked if she was strong enough. I am sick, she said. I am not decorative. I smiled into the phone. She agreed to bring the box herself. That mattered. If I carried it in, Evelyn could call it revenge. If Aunt Ruth carried it in, the past walked in with its own feet. By lunch, Evelyn had sent another message. She wanted to know whether she would be seated, with immediate family. She wanted a photo with me and Daniel before guests arrived. She wanted 2 minutes after dessert to say something about forgiveness. Every request wore perfume. Under it, I could smell the same old room. I answered carefully. You can attend. We are keeping speeches short. We can talk about details that day. I did not say yes to the statement. I did not say no. I wanted to see how badly she needed it. She replied within 5 minutes. It would mean so much to present a united front. There it was. Not love. Not repair. A front. Over the next week, she became almost sweet. She sent old baby pictures of my half-siblings, and one blurry picture of me in the background, holding a paper plate. She wrote, "Look how little you all were." She asked what flowers I liked. She asked whether Daniel's parents knew. The whole story. She never asked what the note had said. She did not know there was a note. Her ignorance was the only thing she had left. I kept preparing. I confirmed the guest list. I made sure Aunt Ruth had the closest chair to the back door. I asked Daniel to keep the small table near the gift area clear. I put the manila folder in the kitchen drawer, under the dish towels. The porch box stayed at Aunt Ruth's house until the morning of the party. I did not want it in my home one day longer than it needed to be. Then a new email came. It was from Lenora Hayes. I had seen her name on the fund website. She handled renewal records and donor compliance. The subject line was simple. Quinn Kinship Fund Reconciliation Statement. Her message was polite, short. She said Evelyn had listed me as a family speaker for the renewal gathering tied to the engagement party. She wanted to confirm whether I was comfortable being referenced in the packet. I read that line 3 times. Evelyn had not just hoped I would sign. She had already put my name into the room. I did not send Lenora the note. Not yet. I did not want the truth to become an email attachment that Evelyn could explain away before anyone saw her face. I replied with one sentence. I will be present at the gathering, and I would prefer any statement about my childhood be addressed in person. Lenora responded 20 minutes later. Understood. I will attend. No drama, no accusation. Just a third chair being pulled up to the truth. The day before the party, Evelyn called instead of texting. I almost let it ring. Then I answered, because silence can be mistaken for weakness when the other person is desperate enough. Mara, she said, warm as a brochure. I want tomorrow to be beautiful. So do I. I hope you understand how important this is for the family. There was the word again. Family. She used it like a blanket she could throw over any stain. What part is important? I asked. A pause. The healing, she said. Whose healing? Another pause, shorter this time. All of ours, she said. I let the silence sit between us. Then her voice sharpened by one small degree. Your blood is a warning, she waited. Bitterness is leading you again. Same blade. Cleaner handle. But this time, the sentence landed differently. It did not make me smaller. It told me she was still standing in the same place, waiting for me to walk back into it. I'll see you tomorrow, I said. She expected more. I gave her nothing. After we hung up, I took the manila folder from the drawer and checked it one last time. Note photos, box photos, fund page. Evelyn's statement, Lenora's email. Dates. Nothing extra. Nothing swollen. Daniel came into the kitchen and leaned against the counter. Are you all right? He asked. No, I said. But I'm clear. Clear was better than all right. The next morning, Aunt Ruth arrived before anyone else. Daniel helped her out of the car. She waved him off after 2 steps and made him carry the covered dish instead. The porch box was tucked under her arm. She looked at the backyard, then at me. Where do you want the past? She asked. I pointed to the small table near the gifts. Not in the center, I said. Not yet. Aunt Ruth nodded. She set the box under the tablecloth, close enough for my hand to reach. Then she sat down in the good chair we had saved for her. By noon, the yard had filled with voices. Daniel's parents were kind and nervous. My friends moved around with lemonade pitchers. Cousins arrived in clusters, carrying foil-covered pans and old assumptions. Evelyn came last enough to be noticed and early enough to take control. She wore navy, same color as the photo on the fund website. She kissed the air beside my cheek. My beautiful girl, she said. It was the first time she had called me that in front of anyone. The words did not hurt. The reason did. Evelyn moved through my backyard like she had rented it. She touched the tablecloths. She straightened a vase Daniel's mother had already straightened. She asked the photographer where he wanted. The mother-daughter shots. As if the phrase had not spent 22 years locked out of her mouth. I stood beside the lemonade table and watched her work. There are people who apologize by lowering their eyes. Evelyn apologized by improving the room until everyone forgot she had entered it as a guest. She hugged cousins she had not called in years. She touched Aunt Ruth's shoulder with 2 fingers and said, "You look well," which was both a lie and an instruction. Aunt Ruth looked up from the good chair. "I look present," she said. Evelyn blinked. Then she smiled harder. The party had a schedule because small events need mercy. Photos at 1. Toasts at 1:30. Dessert after that. Lenora Hayes, from the Quinn Kinship Fund, arrived at 12:40 with a slim folder under one arm. She was not dressed like someone coming to a family picnic. She was dressed like someone who expected signatures to behave. Evelyn saw her and brightened. "Mara," she called. "Can we just take care of one tiny thing before everyone gets busy?" Tiny thing. She held out the statement. The paper was on thick cream stock now. Not printer paper. She had dressed the lie for company. My name waited at the bottom in a blank line, neat as a trap. Under it, someone had typed daughter and family reconciliation participant. Daniel stepped closer, but he did not speak. If I needed him, I would look at him. Until then, I needed the room to hear my voice, without his shadow over it. Evelyn lowered her tone. It only says we've made peace. I looked at the paper. It says you remained present through my difficult years. Her smile held. That is a gentle way to put complicated things. It also says I am grateful for your patience. Her thumb pressed into the edge of the page. Mara, this is not the time to pick apart wording. Behind her, the photographer adjusted his camera strap. At the gift table, Aunt Ruth's hand rested under the tablecloth, near the place where the porch box waited. Lenora stood 6 feet away, close enough to hear, far enough to be polite. Evelyn turned the paper toward me again. Sign it, sweetheart. There it was, sweetheart. She had saved the softest word for the hardest push. I took the pen from her hand. I did not sign. I set the pen down across the blank line. No. The word was small. It did not need help. Evelyn's eyes changed first. The smile stayed on, but her eyes went flat, the way they had on the porch when I was 16. She leaned closer. Your blood is a warning. A small pause. Bitterness is leading you again. This time she said the old sentence in a yard full of people. Not loud. That would have helped me. She said it just loud enough for Daniel, Lenora, Aunt Ruth, and the cousin setting down a bowl of pasta salad to hear. A small public wound. A practiced one. I picked up the statement. I folded it once. Then I handed it back to her. If you need my name, I said, you can wait until your speech. Her lips parted. Surprise reached her before anger did. For a few minutes, the party tried to become normal again. People ate deviled eggs. Someone opened another bag of ice. Daniel's father laughed too loudly at a joke that was not that funny. Kind people do that when a room tilts. They make noise and hope the floor comes back. I walked to the side of the house where the trash cans hid behind the fence. Not to cry. I needed air that did not have Evelyn in it. Daniel found me there with 2 plastic cups of lemonade. You want me to end it? He asked. No. You sure? No, I said. But I'm clear. He handed me the cup. His hand was steady. Mine was too once I wrapped my fingers around the cold plastic. If you have ever had to stay calm while someone rewrote your life in front of other people, leave the word boundary in the comments. Someone listening quietly may need to see it. Stay with me, because the next thing my mother did finally open the box. I went back before the toasts. Evelyn had recovered. Of course she had. Recovery was one of her talents. She stood near the patio steps with Lenora, explaining something in a voice made of sugar and gravel. Our Mara has always needed time, she said. Our Mara. I stopped beside the dessert table. Close enough. Evelyn saw me and reached out as if she had been waiting to pull me into the circle. I let her hand land on my elbow. I did not move closer. Lenora looked from Evelyn to me. Mrs. Quinn was explaining that the statement is part of the renewal packet, Lenora said. She said you had discussed it. We have not, I said. Evelyn laughed softly. We've discussed the spirit of it. No, I said. We discussed whether you could come to my party. The cousin with the pasta salad had stopped pretending to look for a serving spoon. Evelyn's fingers tightened on my elbow. Not enough to hurt. Enough to remind me that she still thought pressure counted as affection if she did it with witnesses nearby. The fun needs a clear family story, she said. I looked at her hand until she removed it. What it needs, I said, is a true one. Lenora did not react much. She only shifted the folder from one arm to the other. That small movement changed the whole yard for me. The folder was no longer tucked away. It was ready. At 1 o'clock, the photographer called for family photos. Daniel and I stood near the maple tree. His parents came first. Aunt Ruth came slowly, using the cane she hated. My friends hovered at the edge, waiting to be useful. Evelyn stepped into the open space beside me before anyone invited her. Mother of the bride, she told the photographer. I heard Daniel inhale. We are not taking that photo, I said. Evelyn kept her face turned toward the camera. Mara. One word. A warning bell in a church voice. The photographer lowered the camera a few inches. I said, we can take group photos after the toast. Evelyn looked at me then. Not at the camera. At me. For 1 second, I saw the old calculation. If she pushed harder, she looked cruel. If she stepped back, she looked weak. She chose a third option. She smiled at everyone else. We'll let the bride have her way for now. For now. She thought time still belonged to her. At 1:25, She found the microphone. We had not planned on a microphone. It was a small backyard party. No one needed amplification, except a person trying to turn a family wound into a public document. Evelyn had asked Daniel's cousin to connect it to the speaker near the patio. She said her voice did not carry well. Lenora stood near the back steps with the folder open. Aunt Ruth sat in the good chair, both hands on top of her cane. The porch box was still hidden under the tablecloth near the gifts. I knew exactly where it was. I could feel it the way a person feels a storm before the first branch moves. Evelyn tapped the microphone. The yard settled. Not silent. Settled. Ice shifted in cups. A paper plate bent in someone's hand. Daniel moved to my right, close enough that his sleeve touched mine. Evelyn began with Daniel. She welcomed him to our complicated but loving family. She told a harmless story about meeting him that morning, which was impressive, since she had only asked him where the outlets were. People smiled because people are trained to help speeches survive. Then she turned to me. My daughter and I have walked a long road, she said. There was the word again. Daughter. She let it hang as if she had earned it. I was a young mother once, she continued. I made mistakes. All mothers do. But I never stopped hoping that Mara would come home to the family that loved her. Aunt Ruth's cane tapped the patio once. Evelyn did not look at her. She kept going. Today, with her engagement, I believe we are being given a chance to show what forgiveness looks like. She lifted the cream statement from the small table beside her. I had not seen her place it there. She was going to read the lie before I could refuse it privately. She was going to make my silence look like agreement, my manners look like consent, and my engagement party look like her renewal meeting. She looked at me with wet eyes she had summoned on command. Mara, she said, would you come stand beside your mother? The yard waited. I did not move right away. I looked at the cream paper in her hand. I looked at Lenora's open folder. I looked at Aunt Ruth. Aunt Ruth pushed herself up from the good chair. Nobody helped her. We all knew better. She walked to the gift table, lifted the edge of the tablecloth, and brought out the porch box. The cardboard looked smaller in daylight. Evelyn stopped speaking. Aunt Ruth carried the box toward the patio and set it on the table beside the microphone. Then she looked at me. I stepped forward. I walked to the table slowly. Not because I wanted to make a show of it. I needed my hands to stay mine. Evelyn still held the microphone. The cream statement trembled once in her other hand. Then she tightened her fingers until the paper stopped moving. Aunt Ruth, she said, this is not necessary. Aunt Ruth rested one palm on the cardboard box. It became necessary when you called her your daughter into a microphone. No one laughed. No one rescued the sentence. It landed by itself. I stood beside the box. I could see the old tape on the lid. The blue date had faded to the color of a vein. March 14. My 16th year. The yard had become so still that I heard Daniel's father set his cup down on the grass instead of the table, as if wood would make too much sound. I looked at Evelyn. You asked me to stand beside my mother, I said. So before I do, I want the room to see what my mother left with me. Evelyn's mouth opened, but nothing useful came out. I lifted the lid. The smell rose first. Old cardboard, stored cloth, a little dust. The kind of smell that belongs to basements and closets, and things families hope will not be opened outside. My winter coat lay on top. The missing button was still missing. 4 shirts were folded underneath it. Aunt Ruth had kept them flat, almost careful, like the box had been a drawer instead of a wound. I did not explain every item. I did not need to. I reached into the lid and slid my thumb under the strip of old tape. The paper came loose with a dry pull. Evelyn made a small sound. It was not a word. I unfolded the note. My voice stayed even because I only read what was there. Keep her away from my good children. That was all. I did not add, can you believe this? I did not say, look what she did. The sentence had carried itself for 22 years. It could carry itself across a backyard. The photographer lowered his camera until it rested against his chest. My cousin Amber put both hands over her own mouth, then dropped them as if she had remembered breathing was public. Daniel's mother reached for the back of a chair and missed the first time. Evelyn stared at the paper. Her face did something I had never seen before. It stopped arranging itself. The softness fell first, then the wounded mother look. Then the little church smile she used when she wanted people to forgive her before they knew what she had done. What remained was the woman from the porch. I turned the note so the room could see the writing. but I did not pass it around. Some things do not need to be handled by everyone to become true. This was left on Aunt Ruth's porch with my clothes, I said. I was 16. Lenora Hayes closed her folder halfway, then stopped. She looked at Evelyn. Mrs. Quinn, she said. Is that your handwriting? Evelyn swallowed. Her throat moved twice. I was overwhelmed, she said. Lenora did not change her face. Is it your handwriting? Evelyn looked toward the cousins, then toward Daniel, then toward Aunt Ruth, as if one of them might open a side door in the air. Yes, she said. Barely. Aunt Ruth's cane tapped once against the patio stone. Lenora looked at me. And you were placed with Miss Ruth that day? Before I could answer, Aunt Ruth did. She was left at my door, Aunt Ruth said. I opened it. Her voice was not loud. It did not shake. It was the plainest sentence in the yard, and it took more from Evelyn than any speech could have. Evelyn gripped the microphone stand. That is not the whole story, she said. No, I said. It is the part you left out. I kept my eyes on her, not on the crowd. I wanted her to know I was not performing pain for them. I was returning the part she had borrowed without permission. Lenora opened the folder again. This time, the sound of the paper was clear. Mrs. Quinn, she said, the renewal statement you submitted says you remained present through Mara's difficult teenage years. Evelyn tried to lift her chin. It did not rise far. I did what I thought was best for my family. The words came out polished. Old, ready. But they did not fit the box. They did not fit the coat. They did not fit the note in my hand. Lenora set the folder on the table beside the cream statement. That answer cannot support the renewal. Evelyn turned to her quickly. We can revise the wording. No, Lenora said. One word. Clean. Then Lenora placed her hand flat on the folder and pushed it closed. Not hard. Just final. The edge of it covered the blank line where my signature was supposed to go. She took a small plastic card from a side pocket and laid it on the table. The fund card, please. For the first time, Evelyn looked afraid of an object. Her purse hung from her elbow. She did not move. The whole yard waited with her. Aunt Ruth leaned both hands on her cane. Daniel stood still beside me. One of my younger half-siblings, the brother with the stitched backpack all grown up now, looked at the box and then at our mother. Mom, he said. One word. Enough. Evelyn opened her purse. Her hand searched too long. Keys clicked. A lipstick rolled against the table leg. Finally, she took out the card and placed it beside Lenora's folder. Lenora picked it up. No one clapped. No one cheered. It was not that kind of victory. It was the sound of an $18,000 title being removed from a hand that had held it too long. Evelyn looked at me then. Really looked. Not like a daughter she could polish. Not like trouble. Not like a curse she could name into obedience. For one breath, she saw the girl on the porch and the woman at the table at the same time. I watched the recognition arrive, and I did not step toward it. She whispered, Mara. I folded the note along its old crease. You do not get to call me your daughter only when there is a witness, I said. My voice was quiet. It reached anyway. Daniel's mother covered her eyes with one hand. Amber turned away, but not before I saw her crying. Lenora slipped the card into her folder and held it against her side like a closed door. Evelyn tried once more. I made mistakes, she said. Aunt Ruth looked at the cardboard box. You made a delivery. The sentence was sharp enough to cut, but she said it without heat. I placed the note back inside the lid. I smoothed the tape over it with 2 fingers. The tape did not stick anymore. It only remembered where it used to hold. Then I closed the box. That sound ended the speech. Evelyn still stood beside the microphone, but the microphone no longer belonged to her. The cream statement lay on the table, unsigned. The folder was closed. The card was gone. The photograph she had wanted had already become impossible. I turned to Evelyn one last time. I am going back to my engagement party now, I said. You may stay as a guest. You may not stay as my mother. She flinched at the difference. I did not wait for her answer. I picked up the porch box. Aunt Ruth reached for it, but I shook my head once. Not to refuse her. To tell her I could carry it now. Daniel moved beside me. He did not put his arm around me. He only walked close enough that my shoulder knew where he was. Behind us, Evelyn lowered herself into the nearest chair. the navy dress folded around her like something borrowed. My brother picked up the lipstick from the patio and set it on the table without looking at her. Aunt Ruth returned to the good chair. The yard stayed quiet for 3 more seconds. Then Daniel's father cleared his throat and said, much too gently, "Does anyone need more lemonade?" It was the most human thing anyone could have said. People moved because somebody had given them permission to have bodies again. Plates shifted. Ice clicked. A child near the fence asked why the grown-ups were whispering. I carried the box through all of it and set it inside the house, on the bench by the door. When I came back out, Evelyn was still in the chair. For the first time in my life, she looked smaller than the story she had told. Evelyn left before dessert. No one asked her to. No one blocked her path. She stood from the chair, gathered her purse, and walked across my backyard with the same careful posture she had used when she arrived. Only this time, nobody followed her with a camera. The navy dress looked different in daylight. Earlier, it had looked polished. On the way out, it looked like a costume after the play had closed. Lenora Hayes stayed 10 more minutes. She did not make a speech. She asked Aunt Ruth if she needed help getting to the car, then told me she would send a formal update the next week. Her voice stayed even. That helped. Some people think kindness has to be soft. Lenora's kindness was clean. The update came on Wednesday. Evelyn was removed as chairwoman of the Quinn Kinship Fund. Her $18,000 yearly stipend stopped at the end of that month. The travel card was canceled. Her name came off the donor page. The mother-daughter reconciliation feature she had planned for the newsletter was pulled before printing. I read the email twice. Then I closed my laptop and washed the breakfast plates. A woman can wait 22 years for the truth to stand up, and when it finally does, the sink is still full. The mail still comes. The dog next door still barks at the same delivery truck. Life does not become music just because a lie loses its chair. Aunt Ruth called that afternoon. Did she lose the little title? She asked. Yes. The card? Yes. The speeches? Yes. Aunt Ruth made a small, satisfied sound. Not a laugh. More like a drawer closing. Good, she said. Now eat something. That was all the celebration we had. Evelyn called me 6 days later. I let it go to voicemail. Then I waited until evening and listened with Daniel sitting across the room. I did not need him to protect me from the message. I wanted a witness to the fact that I no longer had to answer fast. Her voice was smaller. Mara, she said. I know mistakes were made. Not, I made mistakes. Mistakes were made, as if the porch had done it, as if the box had packed itself. As if a pen had crawled into her hand and written those words without her permission. She said people did not understand what she had been going through then. She said I had always been sensitive. She said Aunt Ruth had never liked her. She said the fund was important work, and that one ugly note should not erase years of service. Then, near the end, she said, I am sorry if you felt abandoned. I turned the phone face down on the table. Some apologies do not open a door. They only check whether the lock is loose. I called her back the next morning. I wanted daylight around my voice. She answered on the first ring. I hoped you would call, she said. I heard your message. I meant what I said. I believe you meant some of it. Silence. I kept my hand flat on the kitchen table. That helped me stay inside my own body. You may be sorry now, I said. You may even be sorry for a long time. But you do not get to come back into my life because the old story stopped protecting you. She started to cry then. Maybe it was real. Maybe it was useful. By then, I no longer needed to sort those two things. I'm your mother, she said. No, I said. You are the person who left me on a porch. Those are not the same thing anymore. She asked about the wedding. She asked if she could still come. She asked if we could take one picture. Just one, so people would not talk. That was the clearest answer she gave me without meaning to. No, I said. Not cruelly. Not loudly. Just no. There would be no mother of the bride seat. No speech. No soft focus photo beside the woman who had called my blood a warning. If forgiveness ever came, it would not arrive wearing a corsage. Daniel and I changed the seating chart that night. We did not leave an empty chair for Evelyn. An empty chair would have made her absence the centerpiece. We removed the chair completely. It felt cold. It also felt honest. The wedding stayed small. Aunt Ruth wore pale blue and complained about the shoes she had chosen herself. Daniel's mother cried before the music started. My brother came alone and stood at the back until I saw him. He did not ask me to forgive Evelyn. He did not explain her. He only said, "I should have known more." I said, "You were a child too." That was as much mercy as I had to give that day. After the ceremony, Aunt Ruth gave me the porch box again. She had tied a plain white ribbon around it. No bow. She knew better. "I did not wrap it," she said. "I only made it behave." I took it from her and laughed. For years, that box had been the shape of being unwanted. At my wedding, it became something else. Not pretty, not healed, mine. In our new house, I did not put it in the living room. I did not want visitors asking about it over coffee. I did not want to turn my worst day into a decoration. I put it in the linen closet, on the second shelf, between folded towels and extra pillowcases. Aunt Ruth came over the first week after the honeymoon. She was moving slower by then. She opened the closet, saw the box, and nodded. Then she took a clean towel from the stack, folded it once more, and laid it on top of the lid. "There," she said. "Now it lives with useful things." That was the moment I almost cried. Not at the party. Not when Evelyn put the card on the table. Not when Lenora's email came. That towel did it. A clean towel on an old box. A small, ordinary mercy placed on top of an old, ordinary cruelty. A boundary is not revenge. It is the door you finally learn to close from the inside. I still have that box. I do not open it often. I do not need to. The proof is not my daily bread. It is just there, in case the past ever tries to put on perfume and call itself love again. Aunt Ruth died later that spring, before my next birthday. She left me her blue porch chair, the chipped mixing bowl she used every Thanksgiving, and a note written in the same blunt hand she had used on grocery lists. It said, "You were never the warning, you were the child at the door." I keep that note somewhere else. Not in the porch box. Some truths belong with pain. Some belong where you can reach them on a good day. When people ask me now what family means, I do not start with blood. Blood can be used like a chain by people who want obedience without tenderness. Family is the person who opens the door before the car reaches the corner. Family is the person who keeps the truth safe until you are old enough to hold it. Family is the one who puts a clean towel on the thing that once carried your shame and says, without making a sermon of it, that it belongs in the house now. That is family. That's my story. 22 years. One porch box. One note. One door Aunt Ruth opened when my own mother would not knock. If someone has ever treated your blood like a curse, please hear me clearly. You do not have to become smaller to make them comfortable. You do not have to stand in a picture just because the person who hurt you needs a prettier version of the past. Share this story with someone who needs permission to close a door. Comment the boundary you are learning to keep, even if your hand still shakes. And subscribe if you want more calm family stories where the truth does not scream, but it still gets heard. My name is Mara Quinn. I'm 38. I was left on a porch once. I do not live outside anymore.